Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel Learn with Debbie, and we're going to be learning about everything accounting. But today I want to discuss about how to ace your ICAN case study exam. Now let's dive into it. Now, in preparing for your ICAN exams, there are essential skills you need to have, you need to possess to enhance your success chance in the exam. Now, you need to be able to identify a business. You need to be able to identify technical and ethical issues when giving any case. You need to be able to apply the technical knowledge you have acquired over the years to identify issues in the case scenario. You need to understand the business situation. You need to know where it is in its life cycle. Is it in the early stage? Is it in the growth phase? Is it in the maturity stage? You also need to understand the business scenario and wider issues. You need to select appropriate tools for analysis. In giving any case study, you need to carry out your analysis and you need to be able to determine the appropriate tools that you will use that will be needed for any case. Every case has its own peculiar tools you can use to analyze it. Now, you also need to develop relevant appropriate analysis using the financial statement you might be given and the financial data that will be provided during the exam. Now, you need to also apply professional skepticism. You need to be able to demonstrate ethical awareness and understanding. And you also need to evaluate the outcome of the analysis you've done, provide clear judgments based on your work. You need to develop a clear conclusion and then your statement of any reservation. Now, you also need to make recommendations based on the analysis you've done. And then, most importantly, you need to produce a well structured, tactical, and objective report, which will include your executive summary and appropriate appendices. You would want to use suitable language to communicate your ideas to your audience. Now, I need you to take note this can be broken down into five key areas which I have made an acronym for, which is AFOC. A, assimilation of all the data and information given. When you get into the exam hall, I need you to remember these five letters AFFOC. That will guide you on whatever you're doing. The summary of everything you're doing in that case study exam is summarized in these five key things. Number one, you need to assimilate all the data and information that you will be provided with either in the pre-seen or the unseen on the day of the exam. You need to be able to assimilate all the data, understand everything given to you. Then the F, which is for the first F, which is for financial statement analysis. You need to carry out your financial statement analysis, understand the story that the financial statement is telling. You also need to carry out your financial data analysis. You need to just understand the financial context of the issue. Now, you also need to carry out operational and strategic analysis. The environment of the business, you need to understand the strategic context of that business giving you, and you also need to consider the industry in which the business is operating. You need to also consider ethical awareness around it. Now, in assimilation of the data given you, you need to be able to ask what information has been provided. You need to ask yourself, what is your role? What sort of organization is the subject business? What commercial organization or ethical issues may be discerned? Now, in your financial statement analysis, you will need to know, is the business making solid profits, marginal profits, or losses? What are the main revenue streams? You will need to ask yourself, how does it make its profit? Why is it making losses? These are questions you will ask yourself when going through the case. And then you need to ask yourself, is the statement of financial position strong or weak? What is the financial structure of the business? Is it appropriately financed? Is it highly geared or lowly geared? Is it generating or absorbing cash? You need to ask. What is the future prospect of your clients? And now, in carrying out your financial data analysis, you will need to ask what other financial information is provided apart from the main financial statement. You will need to know what key related non-financial factors are provided, like for example, the legal agreement or tender document. You will need to know what other numerical details are provided for your consideration. like budget or forecast or pricing parameters for tenders and all of that. You also need to know what key assumptions for the additional financial or non-financial factors are provided you. Now you also need to identify critical factors concerning the data provided, dates, deadlines, tipping points and all of that. Now in carrying out your operational and strategic analysis, you will need to know where is the business in its life cycle. You will need to know what generic issues face businesses at this point. You need to know what the specific potential strategic issues that are facing the business at this point. You need to know what are the business strengths and their weaknesses. Now, you also want to consider the industry, the business, and ethical awareness. You need to know what are the known or obvious current industry issues. You need to know what are the top companies doing at the moment. Now, after carrying out all these assessments, what do you do? This is the business analysis. That is your financial statement analysis, which is the statement of comprehensive income, your statement of financial position, statement of changes in equity, your statement of cash flow. Go through all of them. You do your financial data analysis, operational and strategic business analysis. Then you also need to look at sustainability reporting. You will also need to look at that. Now, let's go into details. In carrying out your financial statement analysis, you can use some techniques including comparative financial statements, comparing year on year. You can use common size statements using percentages. You can use the trend analysis. You can use your ratio analysis. Whichever one best suits the case scenario, you go through with it. And then in carrying out your financial data analysis, these are some of the tools you can use. These are, but not limited to this. You can just pick the one that best suits the case. All these tools, I can assume you already know all of them from your years of study, so you will be tested. So you will need to have a good understanding of all of these tools so you can be able to have an advantage in the example. Why? Because you cannot tell which area will be tested. You cannot tell which tool you might be needed to use. So having a good understanding of all of these tools will help you to have an advantage in the exam. Now you need to know about your forecasting and budgeting techniques, your financial appraisals and reporting, the break-even or CVP analysis, your product mix and profitability decisions, your project appraisal, the short-term and long-term decisions, risks in decision making, sensitivity analysis, and business validation tools. Now, in your strategic and performance management tools, you have the strategic management tools, the PESTEL, the SWOT, Potter's Five Forces, Potter's Value Chain, and all of them. You also have the performance management tools, which are your critical success factors, the KPI, the key performance indicators, the balance scorecard, value for money, economic value added. So you will need to have a good understanding of all these tools, have a very good understanding of them before you enter into the exam hall, because you would not know which one you would likely make use of in changing your case. So have a good understanding of all of them, so when you get to the hall, you will be able to tell which one will best suit the case that you will be given. Now, very importantly, writing a professional report. In writing a professional report, this is the report structure. Number one, you have the executive summary, very important, has a very high percentage of your total score. Now, you need to do that, and then the introduction, the body of the report, your conclusion and recommendation, and then the appendices. Now, ICAN case study questions will normally give you two requirements. So you have your executive summary that comprises of the two requirements, the introduction and the introduction of each requirement, the body of each requirement, the conclusion and recommendation of each requirement, and then your appendix. Now, this is the report format. You have page one. Your first page should be your cover page. In writing your report, your first page should be your cover page. And then this is what it looks like. You have two, the board of directors of the name of the company you'll be giving, report on the topic, and then prepared by your name or the name of your firm or the department, whoever is stated in the report to prepare this. Now you also have the date, and then you put your disclaimer, and then the second page you have your executive summary. This is where you summarize both the requirements one and requirement two. You'll be given everything in the report, you summarize it in your executive summary. And then you have the section one of your executive summary, purpose of the report, summary of the two requirements, the assumptions and reservations, your skepticism, and then section 2, the requirements 1, conclusion, and section 3, requirement 1, recommendation, section 4, requirement 2, conclusion, and requirement 2, recommendation. Now go to the next page, page 3. Page 3 will now be your report on requirements 1. You should have appropriate headings. You have and subheadings. You introduce it, the body, your conclusion, and your recommendation. And then this can take many pages, more than one page. And then wherever you're done, the next page should be for your requirement 2 with appropriate headings and subheadings. You introduce the requirement 2, you make the body of the report, and then your conclusions and your recommendations. And then finally, the appendix should be the last few pages of your report. I would suggest you go to like the last few pages of your report to start the appendix, because that is where you actually start working from. Now, very importantly, this is the part where I tell you about how I failed in my first attempt of case study. Now, there's very important thing you need to take note of in writing case study exam. You need to understand that whatever you do, you must present your report. The mistake I made the first time I wrote the exam was that I spent a bulk of the 4 hours given in trying to calculate, do the financial statement analysis and the financial data analysis. I spent so much time on that that I didn't realize that time had gone. And when I wanted to start reporting, I had no time to do that. I barely finished my executive summary. And then when I came out of the exam hall, I just took my question paper, and this is the first thing I saw. I saw people presenting of appropriate appendices 10%. I just knew that I had failed at that point, because I was thinking that maybe having done all of those calculations, they could see that I knew what I was doing. Even though I didn't report it, they could see that I had already gotten a good hold of the case and everything. But no, presenting appropriate appendices does not help you pass the exams alone. And I think I got 10 over 100 in that exam. So what should you do? As you are going ahead and doing your financial statement analysis, your financial data analysis, as you are gathering information from your analysis, make sure you are reporting it. Make sure you are reporting every single step of the way. Do not wait until you are done with all the appendices before you start reporting. Every little thing you do, make sure you are reporting it. Make sure you are reporting it, because you are going to be awarded for assimilation of the information given, structuring problems and solutions, applying judgments, drawing conclusions and making recommendations, as well as demonstrating integrity and multidisciplinary skills. Whatever you do, please make sure you are writing your report. As you solve, as you carry out your racial analysis, make sure you are writing the report. As you whatever you do, make sure you are reporting it. That is what will help you to ace your case study exam. Thank you so much. Wishing you the best of luck, and I want you to like and subscribe, because I'll be sharing more interesting accounting topics. Thank you.